where my digestive system just completely shut off and I couldn't put food in my mouth to swallow.
Welcome back to the Open Up Podcast and to episode 93 with my friend, breathwork practitioner and founder of the breath movement, Jake Loreto, my man.
How are you, brother?
Thank you for doing this.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, first question straight off the bat. Let's go deep.
Let's do it.
Could you please describe the way that you view yourself as a man and or human?
Big one, straight off. How I see myself as a man. I'll start with how I see myself as a human, because I've grown a lot into my humanity over the last probably 6 or 7 years. As a human, I was always very shy and in the shadows, should I say. Never wanted to be the man at the front. And now I'm such a different person. I'm so grown up. I want to be part of humanity. I want to help humanity. And I feel like through my journey, I've got the tools that I can use to support people going through all their stuff. And as a man, again, I've been a child my whole life. It's only been the last 6 years that I've actually feel like a man, I've just had a little girl and I've just stepped into that dad zone even more, and it makes me so happy that I can do this. And, she just makes me so happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you content with who you are as a man at the moment?
I'm very content with who I am. Yeah, totally. And I haven't been for a long time. And there's obviously catalysts that forced me to grow into who I am as a man now. And I'm so proud. I'm actually so proud of myself to be where I am right now. Yeah, I'm super proud.
Powerful stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, seeing as your story pretty much starts at about 4 years old, why don't we just dive straight and you can tell it from there?
Yeah, perfect. So pretty much from 4 years old, my parents got divorced like a lot of other people out there. And growing up, I never really thought that it affected me that much. But as a kid, you're always getting these feelings of, oh, where's my dad, or where's this love coming from, And we moved around a lot. We're always, we started off in Fremantle, then we moved up to the north of the river, and ended up down in Pinjarra, of all places. Wow. And from Pinjarra to Mandurah. So I lived in Mandurah pretty much my whole life now, and I absolutely love it down there. And so all that moving around, I think, created a little bit of a, what's the word? I'd say a little bit of an emotion in me which forced me to, in difficult situations, to want to run away. Always needing to have a door slightly ajar so that I could escape from any situation. Almost like any commitment, I'd need to be, I wouldn't be fully invested into anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, looking back now, knowing all the work that you've done yourself and the work that you're doing to help others, how did that divorce and not having a father figure impact your life moving forward?
I guess for me, I would say the biggest thing would be, deep down I was always looking for that father figure. And I guess it created something inside of me where I didn't want to be like my father in a sense. Yeah. But that in turn creates this thing of you are like your father, because you're creating a big emotional overwhelm almost in the body. You're creating this thing like, if I'm anything like that, then something's wrong with me. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing is, and it's just yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
I don't want to put words in your mouth,
Yeah.
but with some of the people most of the people that I've interviewed who have had parents who've divorced or split up, the parent that goes away, most people feel like they weren't enough for the parent, even if the decision to leave had nothing to do with them. Was there any hint of that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a given with any sort of, as a child, you know, someone leaves, the kids are like, well, where are they? You know, we don't have the cognition to be able to work out, oh, they don't love each other and this happened and all this happened. It's where have they gone? So that definitely created a lot of my own stories in my body, which forced me down a track later on in life to have to face a lot of those demons.
Okay. And saying you moved around a lot and you needed this door ajar as like an escape route, as an escape plan, escaping from commitment, were you ever able to fit into social circles moving around that often, and were you ever able to be yourself?
Yeah, I don't think I've been myself my whole life up until the last 6 years. I've always been fitting in with people. I've always had a sense of, I've always worn masks to, I guess, keep myself afloat, keep my emotions down here. Not if I show people who I really am, then, you know, I'll get rejected again from childhood, rejection. So yeah, a lot of the moving around per se, even just changing schools for me was huge. So we would move from up north to Pinjarra, you get a new school, and there would just be massive overwhelm because, again, meeting new people, I was always in the shadows. I'd get in my comfort zone, I find that comfort zone, and I sit in it. So the moving around was definitely caused a lot of anguish for me, a lot of anguish actually.
So who was the real you that you were trying to, or that you were masking? If you could describe that kid or that person.
Someone who really just I really wanted a father figure, to be honest. That's who I really was. I wanted to be a guy or a kid, should I say, who everyone loved, but my mask was also providing me that, because I would be fitting into all these circles and everyone would love me. And I was funny. I am funny. And I think so anyway. And so a lot of my life has been about just trying to keep my head above the water, per se.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good self-awareness. All right. Let's fast forward to the next part of your story, relationships.
Yeah, totally. So this is where it all took off for me. So with my relationships, I've always needed an out. I would always start little fights when someone would get too close to me, because I literally had so much protection around my heart, again from childhood. And biggest growth for me came from when I met my current partner.
Yep.
We started off as housemates, and after I think maybe 9 months, we started to like each other a little bit more. And I really started to like this girl. And at the time I was 26. And I realized that for me to be able to keep this woman, I'm going to have to commit in some way. I'm going to have to get a pet at some point. Mind you, I would never even get a phone plan because I wouldn't commit to anything. I would have to get engaged, buy a house, get married, have children. And that for me was just, but even just meeting, her friends and so forth, the rejection from possibly her friends about me, and then she would reject me because of them, all that built up a lot of stuff for me as well. And anyway, it came to a catalyst one night where I just started getting panic attacks and anxiety. And it was, I wouldn't say it was out of nowhere because I feel like I've had anxiety my whole life, but this was to a point where I was just vomiting all the time.
Wow.
And it was full power. And she didn't know what to do. She was 21 at the time. So, you know, an attractive young girl who I liked is now looking after an old man who's got anxiety and panic attacks. And that all led to depression as well. So, you know, it was quite intense where at times I didn't eat for 2 weeks. I was in such fight and flight mode where my digestive system just completely shut off and I couldn't put food in my mouth to swallow. So I'd lost like 6 kilos in about 2 weeks. Could barely drink water. Every time, I don't know if you've seen the South Park episode where, I don't know if it's episode, I don't know what it is, but a character, wherever he sees his missus, or his girlfriend, he vomits.
No.
That was me. So whenever I would see her, I would vomit because just the presence of her would bring up so much emotion for me. So
Wow. Were you guys able to talk about what was going on at all?
When you're in that sort of a state, when I was in that sort of state, I was an open book. I was just letting everything fly. I was like, I was just searching for answers. So I was just so open with her going, you know, I'm going to find a way of getting better. This is what's happened to me in my childhood. Maybe it comes from this, maybe it comes from that. She knows everything about me. And a lot of that was, again, from my own fear of not wanting her to leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Keep walking us through it from there, bro.
So even at one point, I had to move out of my own house, which my partner was living in, to live with my mum. So she was living in my house. It was pretty crazy.
And why'd you have to do that?
Because I couldn't be anywhere near her.
Oh my God.
I literally could not be near her. Every time I see her, I would just go back into anxiety and panic attacks. Yeah. And I'd be crying every day. I eventually moved back into the house and I ended up getting a condition where I couldn't leave my house. So I was stuck. I'd open the door and I was just fearful of just going outside. Now before that I've always played sport, enjoyed time with my friends, very active individual, worked hard, and now I can't even leave my house. So I managed to get better. I've had some people in my life who gave me a bit of a kick up the bum and said, just start doing some stuff. So I started just getting out of the house, just going to the shops, little things, and just sweating. I remember going to buy some food from the shop and I was just walking through the shops, just dripping with sweat, just to buy some, lettuce and whatever. And yeah, so I got better, but then I'd go back to work and I'd just be skating through life, literally, with my anxiety levels just under my head, again, just above the water, and the slightest little bit of stress in my life, I'd be straight back down to this dark, dark place. And it took me, I think I went through about 3 cycles. So I would get better, and a friend would ask me to invite me to a wedding, and I'd be fine. As soon as that wedding would come up, boom, I'd get anxiety, depression again for another month and try to climb out. And as I said, it happened probably about 3 times, and no, probably 4 times over the course of about a year and a half. And then the last time, it got to the point where I was like, I can't live my life like this anymore. I was getting intrusive thoughts. I was getting, I thought I was going crazy. There was just so much going on, in my nervous system that I could not explain. So I was basically ready to end my life. I was thinking of the easiest way where my family didn't have to find me. I didn't want them to find me. So yeah, it got pretty heavy, and it's almost like I just needed to get to that point because I just suddenly reached out to someone who is like a health sort of guru, I guess you could call him.
Yep.
And I said, I don't need anything to do with health. I need something to do with mental health. And he put me onto a guy over in Queensland who does breath work. And I remember speaking to him on the phone for about an hour, and I was just bawling my eyes out on the phone, as I did all the time. And he's like, yeah, just come on the retreat. So I doped myself up on a lot of Xanax just to get on the plane to get over there. I can just imagine what I look like going through the airport. Surprised they let me through.
You just come from Mandurah. So.
Yeah, this is true. And yeah, got there, and it was a 3-week retreat, so there was a lot of stuff going on. And from my first breathwork session, I just started crying, and I was like, where has this even come from? And then we did another breathwork session, and I never cried that hard in my life. It was the deepest grief cry of my life. It still gives me goosebumps now, just that moment.
Do you know what you were releasing in that cry?
No idea. Some people in breathwork sessions know exactly what they're clearing. I'm more of a felt person. I know how I feel in my body, and I just know that was a turning point for me. It was like, there's something to this. And I left the retreat. I'd maybe done 6-7 breathwork sessions, and all of them were just so powerful. The retreat ended. I came back on the plane. I was still incredibly anxious. I was still taking anxiety to get home. Taking Xanax to get home. Got home. I remember my partner, we stayed at a hotel for one night just to debrief, because I was away for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just did a breathwork session right in front of her, and she sat with me, and that was beautiful for her to be able to sit there with me in that, and straight off coming on this retreat, and with her knowing, how anxious and how hard it was for me to even go on this retreat, for her to sit there and be with me while I was in my grief during a session. It was it still sits with me to this day. And from then on, I just started doing my own breathwork sessions at home, and I got to about 20 sessions, and I was back at work. I had anxiety levels that were probably down here now, still there, but they were, that wave of stress that would come in from an outside stressor wouldn't tip me over anymore. Then I would do another 20 sessions, and other things change. Another 20 sessions, and I'm now, buying another house. Another 20 sessions, and I'm buying a cat. Another 20 sessions, and I'm getting engaged. And at this point now, I've just had a little baby girl. So the biggest commitment you could ever have in your entire life.
Wow. Hey guys, just want to take a quick second to give you a word from our sponsors. Hopefully I'm wearing the same clothes I was back in that interview, but don't worry about it. We've got Made It Nutrition, that is plant-based supplements. They're all about the holistic lifestyle. They're all about the mind, body, and spirit, and they're doing that through their high-intensity bodyweight workouts as well as those plant-based supplements. Number 2 is CrossFit Long Haul, the Good Times Gym out in Maddington. Now what they do is they offer personal training. They obviously offer CrossFit group training, and they will tailor your nutrition plan to help you achieve your goals. And the reason that I've partnered with CrossFit Long Haul out there in Maddington is because I'm a friend of the owner. I know her, and she's all about that holistic approach as well, combining and intertwining the physical and the mental. So you'll be in good hands there. CrossFit Long Haul out of Maddington. Ciao. So before I ask you anything else, I feel it's super important, especially for anyone listening who has no idea what breathwork is, that just think it's like everyday breathing.
Yep.
What sort of breathwork were you doing? How long were the sessions? And how was it helping you get to this point where you could reduce those anxiety levels and then commit to, I guess, progressing your commitment?
Yeah. So I've done quite a few different breath works. So I started out just doing traditional rebirthing breath work, which is basically you just laying on your back and doing a circular breathing. So a breathwork session would contain you doing deeper breathing, deep in and out. Your in breath is the same as your out breath, so it'll be, there's no pause between your in and out breath.
Yep.
So a traditional way is rebirthing, where you lay on your back and you breathe like that. You'll start to feel sensations in your body, and you just keep breathing through the sensations, and you may have some sort of catharsis. So crying, or it may just be body tremoring or all sorts. So I started off with that.
And so could you explain why that happens?
So when you
Or how?
so when you breathe this particular way, the way I see it is you're increasing basically energy in the body. So our breath is our energy. You look at every, I guess, emotion that arises in the body, the breath has something to do with it. So if you're happy, you can't get enough breath. You're, oh, this feels amazing. When you're sad, you breathe shallow. When you're nervous, you hold your breath. When you're frightened, you don't breathe. So the breath has everything to do with life and how we feel. So when you increase this breath, when you breathe more and more and more, you're saying yes to life. You're saying, okay, I want to feel more, because you're breathing into all these feelings. You keep breathing deeper, deeper, deeper. And it's almost like a little gift from your body saying, okay, you want life again. Let's start to remove some of these old stories, these old patterns that are coming up in your life, and you're wanting to move forward. Yeah.
It's awesome. And so how long were your sessions?
So a typical session goes for anywhere from half an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. But my sessions would typically involve, I would keep breathing until I had a catharsis. So I would keep breathing until I either cried or had some anger come up, or anything like that. And then my breath would actually start to slow down by itself already. And that would typically be a session for me. And I would just do them probably one a week. I was doing at that point, because it's quite a hard thing to do. It takes the brave to go into breath work.
Yeah, it does. And a profound experience that I had quite recently with breathwork, a couple of days ago actually, was my partner and I doing breathwork session. I had my own release. I cried once, not knowing what the crying was about, and then I cried a second time. I seen a white figure crying through that, and then it got to a point where I felt the need to say, don't go. And then I saw my dad walking away as if he was dying. And so that for me was powerful, just to release a lot of that emotion. I felt like I could then reach out to him and tell him that I loved him and that I was grateful for him and that he was going to be my superhero no matter what. And then my partner, from start to finish, was crying the whole way through. And for her, it was releasing all of the pent-up stress, emotion, energy from being my support over the last 4 years. Me going through depression, anxiety, body image issues, suicidality, the pressures of doing this with Open Up, and the financial stress as well. So for her, it was just a whole shed, or a whole release of all of that emotion, energy and stress. So I know firsthand that it's powerful.
Yeah, it's totally. It's beautiful. It is literally, and the best part about breathwork is it's free. It's free.
That's it.
You know, everyone you can lay anywhere and breathe, and you can heal yourself. You don't have to give your power to anyone. If you want to heal yourself, you can breathe.
One thing, or a couple of things I wanted to ask about from that story is you touched on the fact that you went through depression as well as anxiety and panic attacks. Do you understand why you went through that? For me, I feel like if I was in that position, and I have been anxious but not having panic attacks, I felt so much guilt and shame, especially when I got invited to a wedding, supposed to be a best man, had to pull out of being the best man because I was so anxious about everyone from my childhood or from my adolescent years seeing me
Totally.
as someone who was less than what they knew me as.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of guilt and shame around that, and that led to depression and then suicidality again. Do you have an understanding of what it was for you?
For me, it was a big thing was fear of rejection. It was rejection, for sure. It was her seeing me as me, or her, I guess, seeing through my masks that I was wearing. This athlete, this guy that goes out with his mates and enjoys good time, when really I was broken inside, and a deep sense of also, I think, my own body's wisdom of knowing that there's more for me in this life, and I needed to face what was inside of me, and they brought this beautiful woman into my life to say, "Here you go, buddy." Yeah.
Face it or lose it.
Yeah, pretty much, and I'm just so glad that I had that strength to face it. That's why I'm so proud of myself.
For you, looking back at that period of your life, knowing that you've overcome that stuff, overcome that to the point where you can now sit down and be filmed telling your story.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was an underlying belief that you weren't worthy of love, and therefore you and your body were trying to sabotage that at all? And why I ask that is because I've just realised that in myself. I've just realised that I keep my circle of friends to like 2 people max, close friends, and all the rest of them I will sabotage or come up with reasons why I can't hang out with them more often, because I fucked a friend over from back in my adolescent days, and I still hadn't forgiven myself for that, and therefore I didn't feel like I was worthy of that level of friendship, so I would sabotage it.
Totally. Self-sabotage came in so many ways. Again, in relationships, I would start fights with people. I'm not arguments, just petty things, when I knew that I was starting to like them or they were liking me, just to keep them away.
Yeah.
Other self-sabotage. Oh gosh. I would, even when it would be, I would even do that with friends as well. I would just start arguments with friends, or I would, it's so much, there's so much there.
So, in saying that you went through that period, you did, I guess you self-sabotage with your friends or partners, you had the anxiety, the panic attacks. Do you feel like that goes back to your dad leaving and feeling like you weren't enough?
Yeah, I would say so. Everything relates back to childhood, but I also think a lot of the stuff that I went through with doing a lot of breath work, you start to realize not all your patternings are your own, that some of these patternings get passed on through generations as survival mechanisms. So it's one of those things, it's like I'm not sure whether it is my own, I'm owning my patterning, but I'm not sure whether it is actually my own patterning from my own childhood.
Okay.
So it's a place where I'm still engaged in, still searching and still breathing through a lot of my wounding, because there's so much there. We all carry so much, and I just know that the more I breathe, my life changes. I actually change as a person for the better. I become calmer, more relaxed. Being here in front of you with all these cameras, even a year ago I wouldn't have been able to do that, because I was always needing to be in the shadows, in the dark, never the man at the front. And I feel like even though I still get nervous in some situations, I can hold that, whereas I never used to be able to.
Yeah.
So my emotional resiliency is a lot stronger. Yeah.
So you mentioned as well that you went through this period where you had intrusive thoughts, you felt suicidal. What compelled you to reach out to someone? Was that instilled in you growing up, or was that just like something in the moment?
So for me, I was always reaching out. I was an open book. I was on Google. I was getting every supplement under the sun. I was looking into hypnosis. I went to psychotherapists, psychiatrists. I went on medication for a little while. I literally tried everything I could to try and get myself better, because I made that promise to my partner, and I wanted to live. I really wanted to live, and I knew there was something out there. So yeah, I literally was just on the hunt, and I found it. You know, I reached out. I just said, you know, is there something that you know of that I couldn't find? Because out of my 1.5 years of searching, breathwork did not come up once. Or it maybe did, and I read it and went, breathwork? I don't want to know how to breathe. I have anxiety. I have all these. I don't want to know how to breathe. I've been breathing since I was born. I need something to help me to, you know, I wanted to remove these feelings. I wanted these feelings to be gone. I didn't want some sort of mental way of covering them up. I wanted them to be gone. So I was just on the hunt, and I found the most amazing thing in the world.
So you go and do this 3-week retreat when you're finally introduced to breathwork. What are some of the takeaways from that period? Say you're getting back on that plane to go home. What takeaways did you take away from that 3 weeks as that person?
So the actual biggest thing I took away from that retreat, and so before going on this retreat, I was never connected to my body. I would never be into, you can call it spiritual side of things. And for some reason, I remember on Facebook, before I left, reading an article about your spirit guides and asking your spirit guides for help, and they'll answer. And for me, this is like way out of my, this is not who I was, you know. And I remember going on the retreat, and I think it was the 3rd or 4th night, and the guy that was in my room, he said, I remember him saying on the first night, I talk in my sleep, so if you hear me, don't worry. And I was like, all right, no worries. I was like, what am I in for here? And the 4th night, I had a breathwork session that day, and I was so activated. My nervous system was just erratic, so I was up at still to 1 o'clock in the morning, just not sleeping, just staring at the roof. And I remembered this Facebook post, and I said, oh, I've got nothing to lose here. So I looked up, and I just remember saying, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, is this breathwork going to help me? Am I going to get better doing this, or am I just wasting my time? And no word of a lie, about 3 seconds after I said that, in my head, he, in his sleep, said, shut up, everything's going to be okay. And that was one of the biggest changes in my life, because it was just like, what just happened? What just happened? There's so much more that we don't know. For that to happen to me, I was just like, wow. My anxiety went, I fell asleep straight away. And even though the breath work was working very slowly, each session on your nervous system, I just kept doing it. I kept sticking with it, and it worked. And from that, just from that retreat and those words from him, that was a big push for me, and it changed my whole thinking around life in general. Yeah.
That's powerful, man. Let's fast forward. So getting on to recovery, we've spoken about the retreat, we've spoken about the 20 sessions at a time, and you progressing that commitment level up until the point where you now have a baby.
Yeah, totally.
Biggest commitment ever.
Totally. Can't run away from that one.
What else have you used that's helped you, I guess, process, deal with, overcome that anxiety and those panic attacks?
Totally. So there's a few things that I use myself as a barometer, and I will keep putting myself into situations, or if someone says, you should try this, you should try that, I will do it. And I'll do it continuously, and just to see if it changes, basically. And then I'll give that to people, and I'll say, you should try this, you should try that. Because some people might have a little bit too much activation, where they may need to go to something a little bit softer before they enter into a breathwork scenario. So the best things for me that I've found that have worked, one, breathwork. That's the most powerful thing I've found. Two, kinesiology. Kinesiology is amazing. Breathwork will give you what you need. So when you go into a breathwork session and you clear something, your body's intelligence will give you what you need.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to a kinesiology session, you can get what you want, because you can go to a kinesiologist and say, look, I've got an issue with this. Can we start working with this? So they work very well together. I haven't tried too many plant medicines, but that's my next thing. I don't think I had the nervous system capacity to be able to contain those sorts of experiences.
Yeah.
But they're on the cards.
And I think that's what I realised. I did a harpe session with a few of the boys, and this was as a 5 to 6 cups of coffee a day kind of guy. And I had no idea that coffee impacted your nervous system. And so I went into that harpe, I had it, and then I just remember feeling like death for 2 days. You know, I got home from that harpe session, I sat in the shower with it on full blast, and I got my partner to make me a pineapple mango smoothie while I drank it in the shower.
Delish.
And the next day I just lay in bed sweating all day.
Yeah, wow.
And ever since then I've pretty much cut out caffeine, definitely cut out coffee, give my nervous system a reboot. And for me, I think the next thing that I feel called to do is ayahuasca or San Pedro.
Totally. Yeah, I've heard so much, read so much. I've had the calling a couple of times. It's other people that I've spoken to that have experienced these types of modalities. So many different. Go to this person, do this. So I'm just sitting and waiting, and I know it'll come to me when it needs. So
that's awesome.
The opportunity.
And for me, I guess for a lot of people, they'll hear plant medicine and they'll think it's about the trip. For me and for most people who feel called to do something like ayahuasca or San Pedro, it's more about I'm content with the person that I am now, but I want to go deeper to peel back more of the layers that I'm unaware of at the moment. I really want to become the best version of myself as a human being, and therefore that's why I'm doing the plant medicine. What is it for you?
Yeah, I'm just wanting to improve my life, really. I feel like if I can be a better person, I can affect the people around me.
Yep.
If I can, for my little girl, I just want to be the best human possible. I want to be so present for her, and to gain that presence, I need to start moving through more and more of my stuff. And for me, just knowing where I've come over the last 6 years, it's just a massive adventure now. It's like, I want to see what I'm like in another 10 years. I want to see what I'm like in 20 years. I just want to keep improving until I'm just happy. Just happiness, bro.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
A couple quick questions and then we'll wrap up. Knowing everything that you've been through, knowing the divorce, how that's impacted you, constantly moving around, going through anxiety, panic attacks, depression, suicidal thoughts, and then overcoming all of that through the breath and through kinesiology, what would you say the quality of your life is like now?
It's amazing. My life is literally perfect.
Nice.
It's perfect.
I need a high five for that.
Yo. there's still like I'm very aware of my own inner workings. There's still a lot I need to do to improve, you know, issues in my life with friends and so forth. But I'm really, really content with where I'm at in my life. Yeah.
That's powerful, man. Beautiful. You deserve it too.
Thanks, bro.
Knowing the sort of person you are. What have you added to your life or removed from it to improve the quality of it?
What have I added or removed? I guess the things that I've removed have been through breath work, really, and it's my emotional stuff that I've removed. I used to be the sort of guy who I needed to have 100 friends. I needed everyone to like me as well. Whereas now I still have a lot of friends, but I have a couple of really good friends. And that's probably the biggest thing I've removed, is my need to give to every single one of those people.
That's powerful.
And for that has given me space to actually give more of myself to those few people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's the main thing I think I've removed.
What are you most grateful for right now?
My little girl.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a whole new, again, even when my partner was pregnant and the whole leading up to it, I was breathing. I had a lot of stuff coming. I was breathing through my stuff. And as soon as she come, it was just like, wow, this is real. It was almost like all the work that I had done up to this point was for her, for me to be there for her, because I wouldn't have been able to, the man I was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and it's brought up, you know, it brings up a lot more stuff, being in a new situation with a little baby, and it's all learning and it's all growth, and without having her, I wouldn't be able to grow through that side of my life now.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, she's amazing.
If you had the chance to put a message on a billboard somewhere where you know thousands of people would see it every day, what would that message be?
Breath work. Breath work, try it. You know, it's literally, and it is taking off around the world.
It is.
And I honestly think that this is going to change humanity. Because one, it's free. Two, it's easy if you want it to be. And it literally will, I won't want to use the word cure, but it will integrate so many people's emotional challenges that they struggle with in everyday life. All their patternings that they feel stuck. Why am I in a relationship with this person where they treat me bad, and they go into another relationship where the person treats them bad, and it's the same thing with a different hat on? You know, you do 20, 30, 40 breathwork sessions, you'll have so much self-worth that you'll find that you're attracting this completely different person. And if everyone did that, the world would be a much more happier place.
Absolutely. To wrap up, first of all, I want to acknowledge you for giving yourself permission to put yourself in this position in the first place, knowing that the first time I asked you, it felt very much like you weren't ready to do it.
Yeah.
And so to see that shift, and for you to step up and step out to put yourself in this position, I think is something you need to be proud of first of all. But I want to acknowledge the fact that you've been through everything you've been through. You've found something that works so well for you. You've taken that on, you've learned from it, and now you're a practitioner with your business, Breath Movement, helping other people shift some of the emotional baggage like you did. So thank you so much.
Thank you, bro.
My man.
Yeah.